and welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us. It's Ariel and
Raeleen. Hello.
Woo! We are here with a fun episode today. We have a lot to talk about because we took last week off. So we kind of have a lot to catch up on.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't done book news in a while, but there are two pieces of incredibly massive and important book newses that I need to share. And so we will be doing a book news segment later, which I'm pretty hyped on. We have a bit of a book haul.
It happens.
Would you say that you've become unhinged with book shopping this year?
I would say a little, but this week's haul is not necessarily because I went shopping. So things came my way.
Love that little teaser.
I did something interesting. Let's just say I did an interesting book thing, and I also received some books from a publisher. So I didn't go shopping at all, but I do have 6 books in front of me.
I love the idea of like you being like that. It's got nothing to do with me, really. I mean, I didn't ask for them or something.
I mean, in a way, some of it I really didn't ask for. You'll see. It's really crazy what happened to me.
Oh, that's exciting. Okay, well, now I'm looking forward to the haul as well. All right, well, let's start with our usual little catch up. What's been going on? I want to know what's happening here.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, I was looking at Instagram and I came across a post from my new favorite bookstore, Pages on Kensington here in Calgary.
Yes.
And the post said, Valentine's Day book swap. And I was like,
intriguing.
That sounds cool. And so I signed up for it. You just had to like send $25 to the bookstore, fill out a Google form explaining like what. Basically, you just had to choose what book you love, like, or a book that you love, and then like explain why you love it, and then they will give that book to someone, and then you will receive a book from someone, and it's a mystery. You don't know who you're swapping with, you don't know anything about the people or what they're going to pick for you. And so I signed up for this, and on Valentine's Day or the day after Valentine's Day, I went to go pick up my book, and I made a vlog about this too for the Patreon. So if you want to see the whole process of how it all went down, you can see that. But basically, when I got home and opened up the book, or I went to go open up the book, it had a little like card on it, and it says on the back like the reason why the person picked the book and the person's name. I look at this card, I start reading the words. The words are familiar. They're familiar because I've written them. And then below that, I see my name, and I was like, God in heaven. I think something went wrong here, and I ended up with my own book. And so I opened it up.
No way.
Sure enough, I open up Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And I'm like, why is this happening? And
that's a lot of effort to recommend yourself a book.
I know. It's like, oh great, this little card that's telling me why I love this book is really useful.
That's
and now
so
I have
funny.
a second copy. Like, what is this? So of course I reach out to the bookstore and I'm like, guys, something went wrong. And it took a few days for them to get it figured out because the person who organized it was on vacation because it was a long weekend and all this stuff. Yeah. Long story short, they ended up delivering me my actual book. And for some reason didn't ask for Know My Name back. So now I have both of these books. But anyway, I don't know what's going on there. But I opened up the second book and it's exciting too, but it's a book I already have and have already read, and that is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro.
Oh, interesting.
But it's a beautiful cover. Like,
yeah, that's a cool cover.
The cover that I have had for the past 15 years or whatever is the movie tie-in edition. I got it probably the year that the movie came out, and so that was the cover that was available. And so now I have 2 copies, and I'm kind of still attached to that old copy, so I don't know if I want to get rid of it. So I'm having I'm having a conundrum over that. But this copy is beautiful, and I'm really happy that I participated in this strange little experiment because I ended up with a cool copy, and it was fun, even though it was kind of like tumultuous. It was still really fun. But I did do one other fun bookish thing last weekend. I attended a silent book club.
I'm so curious to hear about this adventure.
Do you know?
I didn't know anything about.
Yeah, do you know what a silent book club is? Like,
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I think so. It's when you go to a book club, but you're not all reading the same book. You're not all discussing a book. You're just reading next to other readers.
It's literally like a reading sprint, but just like with people in like
strangers,
physically with strangers. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was great. I know I didn't tell you about this because I was like, this is a fun secret mission. So I I signed up for it because it's it takes place at a library, just like in one of the little like boardrooms that libraries have. And so you have to sign up and like RSVP because there's only so many spots, obviously. And so I like signed up through this website that is all about like activities that are happening and trying to meet people and whatnot. And I was like, this is the only activity that is giving me any kind of excitement. So I'm just going to sign up for this. And so I went to it. I had to like drive to one of the huge main libraries in Calgary and it was glorious. It was huge. Like all the libraries here are just beautiful and like have 3 floors and are architecturally very, very cool. And so I showed up and there was a whole bunch of kids watching Wicked in the main like area of the library, and I was like, okay, this place is hopping. It's crazy here. And so then I went up to the room where the silent book club was happening, and yeah, that's it. It's pretty straightforward. I just walked in, everybody writes their book on the boards, that at the end, if anybody wants to know like what books we were talking about, they can just take a picture of that. And yeah, we just went around, introduced ourselves, and then we talked about what we were reading, and then we read for 2 hours. And then we
in silence the entire time.
Yeah, we were completely silent.
So it was a 2-hour sprint.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing start to finish was 2 hours, so it might have been more like an hour and 45 minutes of actual reading.
But still, that's a really long sprint.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so like
that's so cool.
Yeah, like a couple people would like get up to go, use the washroom or get water or whatever, but for the most part it was just like everyone was just sitting there. Everyone was just reading. And it was really fun.
I was really curious when the silence began. I'm like, is it like the second you enter the room, like no introductions? Or is it like the second you enter the library? No, like just signage. Just like a little route. I don't know if I think I did maybe mention this on the podcast at some point, but like I ended up going to a grocery store a couple months ago and they were doing like sensory friendly mode where, have you been to that at a grocery store? It made me realize that the world could be a calmer place.
Oh, yeah.
Because basically, you go to the grocery store, there's a lot of overhead lights, fluorescent lights everywhere. So basically they like turned off maybe 25% of the lights. So it wasn't as bright.
Yeah.
And they turned off the lights in the like freezers and stuff that are kind of at eye level. So first of all, it was just a little darker in a very calming, nice way.
Yeah.
But the other huge thing was they turned the radio off. Like when you go to a grocery store, there's always music and announcements. They're not allowed to make announcements over either. And I think they put their cash registers on mute or something like that. Like you can't hear sounds other than other people shuffling around. And it was the nicest experience of a grocery shopping I've ever had, right? I was just like, wow, why are we so overstimulated all of the time? So I was imagining that at the library, like the library was in dark mode.
That would be cool.
That's really, really cool. This actually reminds me the opposite of your yoga, where your instructor warned you a hockey puck might smash into the glass at any moment.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy first experience for yoga.
That's so funny. So do you think that you would do that again?
Yeah, I think I would, because it was just like a nice experience to like force yourself to read. Like there's nothing else for you to do. So you kind of just have to read. But
and you don't want to be the one that goes on your phone.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, there's a little positive peer pressure there. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's really nice. And I feel like if I go again and there's some of the same people there, I feel like there'll be some camaraderie, because like I walked in and one guy was like, oh my gosh, is that a Stardew Valley bag? Because I had my little like Stardew tote. And I was like, yeah. And he was just like, we talked about that for a little bit, and then someone else complimented my green hair, and she was like reading a cool book, and I was like, oh, I feel like there's something could happen here if I keep going.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll see. Obviously it's like one meeting a month, so they're pretty spread out, but
okay.
I'm definitely going to go back. That's
a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I've had a pretty snowy, slow, icy time. This is absolutely the most wintry winter I've ever experienced while living in Nova Scotia.
Oh, wow.
Like, it keeps snowing and it keeps icing and it's just crazy.
Do you want to hear something really crazy?
It's been sunny over there?
It's sunny outside right now. The snow is melted.
Warm?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Because today is the beginning of the turn, which is very exciting. It's 7 degrees today.
That's how I'm feeling, too. It was negative 30 just like 6 days ago. And now all of a sudden it's like 7 degrees. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, but we're going to like lean in for a few days of reprieve. Because I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like, let's be honest. winter lasts till May.
Yeah.
Like, March is cold. March
Yeah,
is not
it
a
doesn't
warm,
fully
like,
go
for
away.
everyone, I saw this post from a British person, and it was like, remember everyone, spring starts in 25 days. And I was like, mid-March?
Does it
No, it
though?
doesn't. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I guess it technically does. But, like, it still snows sometimes in April. Like, it's not till May that you actually start to feel like you see little buds on the trees and
Yeah.
everything. And I was, oh my God. I keep fantasizing about spring and summer. I keep like daydreaming about being outside in the grass. Oh my goodness. But anyways, it's been pretty sleepy around here. Other than like just I feel like a lot of work. I've been working a lot, but I wanted to take today's anecdote opportunity to talk about an adventure I went on almost a year ago that I never got to talk about on the podcast because, you know, it just every episode we had something else to talk about and I kept not being able to talk about it. And it's been so frustrating because it was such a cool thing that I got to do.
Okay.
And I really wanted to talk about it. And today I was like, I'm gonna do it.
It's time.
So last April or last May, no, it was end of last April. So it's almost a year now. I went and visited Cambridge Imprint. So Cambridge Imprint is a small business. It's a studio. It's this beautiful, beautiful paper making studio in England, in Cambridge. Can you imagine? And so basically, as you know, like I do bookbinding and I had gone to a bookbinding workshop and my friend Raeleen there, she brought her own beautiful paper. Because you know you've gone too far, and I'm at this point now where you bring your own paper to class.
Yeah.
Anyway, she had this gorgeous paper, and I was like, where is that from? And she's like, Cambridge Imprint. And I was like, oh, never heard of them. So I looked them up, and I just found like, oh my God, their stuff is so beautiful, and I just couldn't believe, I was just obsessed with it. So I was like, I would love to visit them when I'm in England next time. Start looking it up. They don't have a public-facing shop or anything. And so I was like, maybe I can't actually visit them. And then I thought, hold on. You can always ask.
Where there's a will,
And
there's a way.
I felt like an artist in the 1920s.
Oh.
And I was just like sending a letter. It was an email, but sending a letter. And I was like, hi, I'm Ariel. I love paper, and I think your paper is really cool. And I know you don't have a public-facing situation, but could I come visit your studio? Like, I'm so curious about how these types of papers get made and how this kind of business works. Like, I would just love to go and meet you guys. And they were so nice. And they were like, absolutely, we'd be like super happy to come host you for a cup of tea. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done.
It's cute.
So I abandoned Connor in London and I got on the train and I went up to Cambridge just for the day. I almost got lost in a bus on the way there because it's not a shop, right? So it's not in the middle of somewhere retail-y. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Got there and had the loveliest hour ever. I got to meet them. I got to see the work that they do. I got to talk to them. This was pre-book truck. Like I hadn't built the truck yet. And so they asked me a lot of questions about the truck and I was telling them all about that. And I just loved the ladies that work there so, so much. Like I'm actually obsessed with them. And so first of all, they gifted me a mug and it is now like my favorite mug ever. And every time I use the mug, I'm like, I gotta talk about them on the podcast.
Wow.
But then also, I went to a bookshop in Cambridge where that's their main stockist.
Oh, cool.
And I bought so many things. So I want to do a little haul for you today. Because, and this is the saddest part of this whole story, I have kept all the things that I bought in a little pile for a year, waiting to talk about.
I was just going to say, what do you mean you have a haul? How did you like have the restraint to keep them?
I don't know, but it's been killing me. Slowly, softly, it's been killing me. But I wanted to be able to... I know, it's just, it's tragic, really. It's tragic. Okay. But I'm so excited because now I can use these things.
Yeah.
Okay, so first up, I got some really beautiful of their cards, their gift cards.
Oh my gosh, I love that one with the horse.
I know, it says hurrah on it. I thought you would like this one with the rats.
I hadn't seen that one yet. I was caught on the horse.
Very Raeleen-y ratty card. I also got these tiny little with love cards. Oh my god, they're beautiful. I got this tiny little stationery set with a beautiful envelopes and beautiful like blank cards. Oh, I just smacked the computer. I got these 2 unbelievably gorgeous little books that they make. These, I didn't make these. These are beautiful. Okay, this is maybe the coolest thing. I bought this little paper chain kit.
Ooh.
And so basically, if you open it up, it comes with a lot of their corrugated or whatever, these beautifully printed things. And so they're easy to tear. You have to take your time, but it's a fun activity. And then you create this chain.
I thought that's what it was going to be.
And it's just a beautiful decoration. And so I made this chain. This is the only thing. Actually, I've used 2 of the things. I made this chain because I needed decoration for my dad's birthday party. And I was like, I'm making the chain, baby.
Hell yeah.
So I still have enough to make like another 2 chains.
Wow.
And then the final thing that I got was papers.
Oh,
as you can understand. These were a lot bigger, but I've also used them to make books. So these are so beautiful. And I will also show footage and post on Instagram the books that I made with these because I think they're the most beautiful books I've ever made. And I gave them away as Christmas presents. And I actually am just like in shock and awe of how beautiful those papers work for notebooks and stuff. They're just so high quality. So the final thing I'll mention here is I did make a vlog. So we're going to insert that now. Hello everyone, I am walking through a random suburb in Cambridge. I just laughed to myself as I was getting off a bus because first of all, for a long time I thought I was on the wrong bus. Secondly, I got off of the bus to just a random suburb, but it's because I'm on an exciting adventure today. I found out about these beautiful paper makers called Cambridge Imprint, and I wanted to go and visit them. I was like, I'm going to the UK, I want to go to their shop. They don't have a front-facing shop, and so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna email them and see if they might take me on a tour of their studio. And I reached out and they have been so lovely. And so I am going there today to go and see how they make their papers. I'm now going through a very picturesque, other than that discarded beer can, but that's part of the British experience. I'm going through this very picturesque little alleyway, and spring is in full bloom here in the UK. There's so many beautiful flowers out, but also just leaves. It's making me realize how late the leaves come out in Canada. This is nice. I've arrived at the spot that it's at, and it's really cool. It's clearly like it used to be a functioning mill, and now it's all been converted into different units where people are doing different cool things. Like it's a bunch of little offices and workshops and stuff. I believe that's the one I'm going into. Look at how cool that is. Wow. As I entered the shop, I felt really shy and a little nervous, but really excited to see this gorgeous space. I knew it would be beautiful. I knew a place where you made gorgeous papers would be beautiful. And it was. I loved talking to the women there so much. I loved seeing everything that they pointed out to me and just existing in their creative space for a while and listening to how they make their art. I think that's so cool. It shows how the different iterations will come to be.
It's a drawing to start with, or I cut up lots of prints and put them back together again and then did it over again.
Wow.
So, you know, it's sort of, you can feel it's all cut up to make. So we do lots and lots of cutting and sticking.
Because it just looks so interesting with only one layer down, you know.
But then I think that is the sort of magic, that if it looks good with one layer, it's sort of going to work.
It's going to work.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful.
Different samples of everything. It's really useful to have it, so if someone asks something or wondering about anything, you can actually feel and touch the product and look at it.
This accurately reflects the process where you just actually, there is no end. to the
just keep
number of
it.
So many iterations.
iterations
Yeah.
until, and then the way I really make them, and I think Jane works the same way, as you put, you know, you print it in loads of different colours, and then you cut all the bits, and then you sort of
Right,
assemble them
different
like,
places.
oh, this bit was pink. Or
I just left Cambridge Imprint. It was such a lovely time. I feel so grateful to everyone that I met there, everyone I got to chat with. I absolutely loved it. It was a highlight of this trip, but just I am going to reflect for a while about it, and I'll get back to you because it was so nice. I walked away from their studio just feeling so glad that I had taken the leap and reached out to them, and so grateful that they opened up their studio to me and, you know, hosted me for like an hour out of their workday. I got to sit with them and have a cup of tea, and I told them all about the mini truck bookmobile project I was working on. And then afterwards, I went to Heifer's bookshop where they have a lot of their stock there, and I bought a bunch of stuff. I bought a bunch of papers and gift cards and things, and they also gave me some stuff. So I think it is time for a haul. So I just want to thank the ladies over at Cambridge Imprint so much. They were amazing. Their products are beautiful. I am obsessed with their work. And I'm so glad I finally got to tell you all about them.
Yeah.
And you should all follow them and buy their stuff because they're great. And there you go. That was an adventure I did a really long time ago.
Well, I guess, okay, I actually have a question now since you're talking about
Please.
this. Have you
Yeah.
made any books recently?
I have actually.
Oh, cool.
I've been making books like crazy for some reason. I think I'm just very stressed. And so then I'm like, I should make a book right now.
That's
actually,
good.
let me grab a book to show you, Ray. So for my birthday, my friend gave me this really beautiful paper, like handmade paper, and I just made it into a very simple booklet with just a little French link stitch on the spine there. Just because I was like, I don't know what else to do with this paper other than just bind it and use it as a little very like commonplace little notebook. So that's fun. But the one that I made recently that was fun was this one.
Cute.
With my own wallpaper.
Oh, I was thinking that looked familiar. I was like, where have I seen that before? That's crazy. I love that you did that.
I had some wallpaper scraps left over, and I was like, that could be used for a book. And so I made this very pretty, that's upside down, I think. I made this very pretty little journal. Some really nice rice paper on the inside as well. Isn't that cool?
I love
thought that was
so
fun.
much. That's beautiful. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, so I think I've been making a lot of books, more books than usual, actually, which is interesting. But I also have done a lot of research into how I'm going to fix that George Orwell book to rebind it. So I have a plan of action for that as well, because as you and our listeners might remember, that's one of my reading goals this year is to rebind a book and kind of fix a broken book. I'm very excited about that. I've got a whole scheme up in this mind of
Oh my
mine.
gosh, I can't wait.
All right. Well, that is our little update for now. I think that Silent Book Club is so cool, really. I mean, we did something similar-ish. Do you remember a couple years ago we went to a library and read with people? It was very
amazing.
nice.
Yeah, it was very similar
Yeah.
to that. Like just kind of getting together and then chatting about the books if you feel like it or not if you don't feel like it. Like there's no pressure to really do anything, which is nice.
I guess I have one final question about that. Was there a timer? How did you know when to stop?
There was someone who was like organized the event and she kind of like moderated the whole thing. So she came and was like, okay, everyone go around the circle and introduce yourselves. And she's like, okay, now we're going to read. I'll let you know when you have 5 minutes left. And that was basically it. So there was no timer though. I don't know. She must have just been keeping her eye on the watch.
Did she leave or did she read
No, she was there too. She was there. To read
Okay.
too. Yeah.
That's so interesting because when we do reading sprints on the live streams, we do a monthly live stream on the Patreon and we do reading sprints there as well. You have that very scary alarm that like rings very loudly
It's very
at 10.
terrifying, yeah.
Or after 10 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever. And so I was like, I wonder if a room full of people at a public library just like go, oh my God. After
No, luckily
More
we had
gentle.
our wonderful woman who took care of it for us.
That's
Kept
awesome.
it calm.
So cute. Okay, well, let's do a reading and a book haul update. All right, Ray, do you want to start with currently reading, read, or book haul?
Let's go book haul because my book haul does kind of lead into like I read one of the books that I'm hauling. So
Okay, cool.
Yes. So some of the books I already hauled, obviously, the Chanel Miller and the Never Let Me Go. Those were the ones that kind of came at me.
Right.
Chanel Miller came at me without my permission. That was the one I was talking about. But I got a couple of books sent to me from New Directions, a publisher
Incredible.
that we absolutely love. I was so happy to hear from them because we love their stuff, and there were some really cool books that were kind of on the horizon that I was like, you know what? Yes, I will take some of those, please. So the first two are kind of together because they're connected, and they are On the Calculation of Volume by Solveig Bala. I am going to pronounce her name wrong, but these it's a series of 7 books that are now just being translated into English. I think, I'm not sure if it was like a huge book before and they're splitting it up now. I'm not really sure the situation, but they are like these cute, slim little books.
They're so pretty.
And they're kind of like Groundhog Day is the basic like plot. So the main character is this woman who is stuck on November 18th. And it says we meet her on her 121st 18th of November. She no longer experiences the changes of days, weeks, months, or seasons. So she's just like feeling all alone, obviously. It's a very like isolating experience to be stuck in a time loop. And I've never read a book, I don't think, that involves a time loop. Or if I have, I don't remember it. And so I really like that as a plot device. I think that that's really cool. And when done properly, it can be very interesting. Funnily enough, I actually don't really like the movie Groundhog Day, but I do like other things that involve time loops, like Palm Springs, one of my all-time favorite movies. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But yeah, so I'm really excited about those books, and they're slowly going to be releasing all 7 volumes, I think. So I'm excited to have the first 2.
That's really cool. Did you say they were translated?
Yes, all of the books that I'm hauling from.
What language are they from?
That is a great question.
I love it when a book says like translated from the French by this person, because then you can know the original. Does it say that on these ones?
Oh, here we go. Translated from the Danish by Barbara J. Haviland.
Danish.
So they're
Interesting.
Danish, which is really cool. So yeah, really excited about those. And the covers are so cool, and like I love how they're all going to line up to have this like cool
gonna be
color
an amazing
effect.
Gradient.
I don't know. I really hope that I like these so I can own them all, because I know they're going to be beautiful. And then I also got No One Knows, which is a collection of short stories by Osamu Dazai. And I read No Longer Human by him a few years ago and really liked it. He's kind of like this classic Japanese author that's now being, like, all of his books are, I don't know if they're just being translated, probably not. I think they're just being reissued in these beautiful editions that all match. And this one is a collection of his stories that are all like focused on or from the perspective of young women. So that's like the focus of this collection, which should be interesting because he is a man. So I'm not really sure what those stories are all about, but I really liked No Longer Human. So I am excited to give him another try. And the last book that I've got here is an ARC, and I've actually already read it. And
here we go.
Is Killing Stella by Marlon Haushofer, which is the author of The Wall.
The Wall.
And I haven't read The Wall.
Yeah.
But I did decide to read this. I might just do a quick review for this because I don't have like a ton to say. But this one is, it's a little novella. It's like 80 pages long. And this one is translated from the German, I think.
Yeah.
The author is Austrian, but the book is translated from German, and it's about this. It follows this woman who is basically just like on her own for the weekend. Like it just takes place over, a few hours where she's kind of just telling us something that happened. And so she's all alone in her house. Her husband and her 2 kids have like gone off for the weekend, and she's like, okay, I finally have time to like process and talk about what happened. And what happened is that there was this teenage girl named Stella, who is the daughter of her friend. The main character's name is Anna. So Anna's friend approached her and was like, hey, can Stella come stay with you while I'm going to be like off, I'm going to be abroad at this job or whatever, and it would just be easier if she could stay here with you. And so she's like, okay, fine, whatever, she can stay here. But at the beginning of the story, you also find out that Stella has died. And so there's the question of, was it on purpose? Was it an accident? And so throughout the story, Anna is explaining like how they got from point A to point B. And it's quite haunting, I would say. Like it's a very short book, but it is full of like really haunting stuff. And it's very like claustrophobic and kind of, it's not like scary, but it is described as domestic horror, because in a way it is kind of like something terrible happened here. And it's just like this like little insulated family unit and kind of like what happened within that. And yeah, it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I just read it in one sitting because I wanted something quick to read. And yeah, it was great. So now I'm like, I really need to read The Wall.
Yeah, that's been on our TBRs for so long.
Yeah.
We bought it together, right? Like, I remember
You
buying
bought
it with you
in
BC.
Vancouver.
Yeah.
And then I didn't buy it at that time, but I got a used copy from my local used bookstore, but it was that really hideous copy. Do you remember?
Yes.
And so one of our listeners sent me
Yes.
the copy, like the nice copy. So I have the nice copy
that's so
now.
nice.
So I'm like, I have to read it. So that one's definitely been bumped up my list because I really think that you would like this. And I think if The Wall is anything like this, I think we'll like it a lot. Like it's,
that's so
it's kind of like, and I actually looked this up after this book, because this came out originally in 1985, I think. It's just being like translated and released in English now. And it was like adapted to a stage play. And the stage play is just like a monologue, which makes a lot of sense.
cool.
So that's what the book, it feels like. You kind of just feel like you're just hearing someone just tell you their story, like all in one go. And yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting. And yeah.
That's really cool. I'm excited that you've finally kind of broken the seal on that author, because I do feel like that's one of our collective mashed potato books.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I
for
look
some
at that
reason, this
book
feels
all
like
the
we've
time.
started reading The Wall.
Yeah, I feel like this was a good entry.
That's really funny. All right, did you have another one to haul? I forgot.
No, that was
No?
everything.
Okay, well, I will show you the two that I have.
All right.
The first one was a gift. It was a belated birthday present. It's actually very funny because I hung out with one of my friends a week ago, and they gave me that nice paper for my birthday, which was 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And then I hung out with another friend in the same week. We had ramen, and she gave me this present for my birthday.
I love
So
that. Okay.
5 months delayed. Maybe it's just like my half birthday.
Yeah.
You know? So this book is The Book of Speculation by Erica Swyler.
I've seen
Have you
that
heard
one
of this
around.
one?
Yeah, I don't know what it's about, but I've seen it so many times.
I really don't know much about it either, of course, because I didn't pick it out for myself, but it says, one day a mysterious old book arrives on Simon Watson's doorstep on Long Island Sound. Filled with elaborate script, sketches, and whimsical flourishes, it tells of doomed lovers and generations of circus mermaids who have drowned, just like Simon's mother, on July 24th, which is just weeks away. As his childhood friend and fellow librarian, Alice, looks on with alarm, Simon becomes increasingly worried about his sister, who ran off to join the circus 6 years ago. Could there possibly be a curse on his family? What secrets are hidden in this fantastical book, and will those secrets doom or save the remaining Watsons? So there seems to be a mystery, and it seems to be very bookish. Librarians and authors and letters and all that. I think that there's like, it looks really pretty. There's some illustrations in here as well, and there's some like handwritten lettery bits and stuff. So I think that my friend was saying that, you know, she knows that I like books about letters and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I always love a gift, a book present. That's exciting. And I know she read it and she said she really liked it, so that's cool. Actually, kind of similar to your little bookshop fiasco, she had a similar thing happen where she went to a bookshop, asked for this book, they ordered it, and they never told her that it arrived, and then, you know, she never picked it up because she didn't know it existed, and so after a couple of weeks they put it on the shelf for sale and sold it. And then she messaged them and she was like, hi, I never heard about that book. And they're like, oh my God, we forgot to tell you that we had it. And we took so long, we've already resold it. And they were like, here's a gift card. And they reordered it or something. So they felt really bad. So she did have a good reason for why it was late.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay, the other book that I got, I found for really cheap at a bookshop recently, and it is called Never Home Alone by Rob Dunn. Have you heard of this one?
No, but it looks cool.
I know. I've never heard of this one either, and I saw it in the shop, and I was like obsessed with this illustration. It's just so beautiful. It says cover illustration by Olaf Hajek. Olaf, good work. Nailed it. The subtitle is From Microbes to Millipedes, Camel Crickets and Honeybees, The Natural History of Where We Live. So basically, this is a look at the creatures that live in our homes.
Oh.
As you know, I have creatures in my home. Well, kind of around my home. They're not in my home. But I've had like a hilarious amount of wildlife encounters on my property. Beavers, weasels, squirrels, mice. What else? Bobcat. My mom saw a fox the other day. I'm so jealous. She saw it at the creek. But anyways, I saw this one. And I thought, wow, that sounds really, really cool. And so I started reading just the prologue in the bookshop. And I wanted to read you this first little section. When I was a child, I grew up outside. My sister and I built forts, we dug holes, we made trails and swung on vines. The indoors was a place reserved for sleeping or for playing when it got so cold outside that our fingers seemed as though they might fall off. We lived in rural Michigan, where that could happen well into the spring. To my point. No kidding. But the outdoors, that's where we lived. In the time since our childhood, the world has fundamentally changed. Kids today grow up primarily indoors, their lives punctuated by short bouts of movement from one building to another. And this is not hyperbole. The average American child now spends 93% of his or her time in a building or a vehicle. Nor is it just American kids. The data is similar for children in Canada and as well as in Europe and much of Asia. And so he goes on to be like, he literally says, I mention this not to bemoan the state of the world, but instead to suggest that this transition reveals a radical new stage in the cultural evolution of our species, and how he then became fascinated with like what creatures are inside of our homes, if this is the place where we exist now.
Yeah.
And just that fact alone was so fascinating to me. I was like, good God, man, what are we doing? I have a friend who wants to have kids someday, and you know, we were just talking about, would you send them to school, would you homeschool them, whatever, and she was like, I'm seriously looking into forest school. And I was like, what is forest school? And she explained to me, and then I looked it up, and it's really very interesting. It's basically like, have you heard of forest school? Before I start telling you all about it. It's basically school that's outside, and it can either be your entire curriculum, like you just go to forest school from Monday to Friday, or you go there like after school or just a couple days a week or whatever. Yeah. But basically, it's so funny. It's so funny. I watched this incredible video about forest school that was like from a forest school, educators at a forest school. And they were explaining like what they do and how they work and stuff. And they're like, basically, I know it sounds silly, but we just go into the forest and spend a lot of time in the woods and in nature. And we do our lessons while sitting on rocks. And we do our, and they're like, and they have a lot of free time to climb around. And they're like, you know, some of the differences that you might notice between us and a normal public school is that kids here are allowed to pick up sticks or climb on rocks or climb a tree or jump in a puddle. And I was like, holy crap. It's so scary how those very normal things are not allowed at public schools. Yeah. And it's true. Like, I remember at school, you weren't allowed to pick up sticks or throw snow or, like, climb things.
Or, like, God forbid you walk too fast in the hallway.
Oh, my God. Yeah. They're like, what are you, a child with energy? Shut that down.
Yeah. Pretty bad.
Yeah. It's a dark existence. But anyways, this forest school is just kind of a way to try and help kids spend more time outside. I remember I talked about this on the pod years ago, but I learned about why all of us wear glasses, and it's simply because we are not exposed to enough sunlight as children. Which again, when you think about that, that's the saddest thing I ever heard.
We needed more sun to grow properly, and we just didn't.
Literally, like little plants. And it's funny because when I think about my childhood, I spent so much time outside because I grew up in the countryside, and so I just feel like I spent so much time outside, and it scares me to think that
it wasn't
even now it's even less.
Yeah,
actually, you know, that's not the only reason that you wear glasses, because it could just be genetics or whatever. But anyways, it's fascinating, and I thought this book sounded really cool. You know, I read the Lucy Worsley Jane Austen adaptation, and that was very much focused on the homes that she lived in and looking at how those homes affected her. And I'm very fascinated by this concept of home and the building that you live in and maintenance and all these things. And I think this sounds so up my street.
Yeah, it does.
It's like a perfect Ariel book, really. All right, that's what I got. Let's now talk about what we've finished. All right, I'm going to start us off with my reading update.
Okay.
Because I know you have an actual reading update.
Yeah.
What I have is a catastrophe on my hands.
Oh my god.
You guys, I don't want to call it a slump. What is that? I don't want to call it a comeback? Is that a thing? The kids say that, right?
Felt familiar.
I don't want to call it a slump, but I have not been finishing anything.
Oh my goodness.
I keep starting stuff and I'll read like 50 pages of it, which to me is kind of like a significant way in. Like you've definitely started the book if you're 50 pages in.
Totally.
And then I don't care about it anymore.
Oh,
and I
man.
start another thing and I start another thing. And I've probably started and stopped and gotten to around page 50 in like 6 different books, which if you put that all together, I could have finished one.
Yeah.
But I have been actually having a weird time reading lately, and it's no good. And I think, are you feeling the same? Were you mentioning similar?
I've been doing something similar, but for me specifically, it's mostly been with audiobooks. I keep starting audiobooks, and I'll get like 10 to 30% of the way through.
Interesting.
And I'm like, I'm just not vibing with this. And so I stop. Like, I think I've probably started and stopped 3 or 4 audiobooks, which is kind of crazy.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so maybe there's something in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe it's winter. I always feel like I read more in the summer anyways, which is a little counterintuitive because you would think like it's winter, you've got nothing else to do.
But winter also does something weird to your mood and your brain, and like it makes you just like slow down in a different kind of way, I think.
Yeah, it makes me want to sleep.
Exactly. It kind of makes me want to like be a little bit more meandering and like play video games and watch movies rather than read.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree, actually. Okay, well, anyway, that's my update. So I've been starting a lot of things, but not finishing anything. I do think it's going to turn around this week, which I'll talk about when we get to our currently reading, but I do know you finished some things, so how about you lead us on that adventure?
Yes. So I did manage to listen to an entire audiobook. So
Okay, cool.
that will be the first thing I talk about here, and that was The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop. Kelly Bishop is an American actress who was born in 1944 in Colorado Springs, Colorado. She started her career as a dancer and got her big break as Sheila in A Chorus Line, for which she won a Tony Award in 1976. She went on to work as an actress for TV and film and is best known for her roles as Emily Gilmore in Gilmore Girls and Mrs. Houseman in Dirty Dancing. This one was really fun because a lot of people have been telling me to read it because of my in the biz obsession and also because I like Gilmore Girls. And it was kind of perfect actually because I rewatched Gilmore Girls last year. I don't know if I ever talked about it, but I rewatched all of Gilmore Girls last year for the first time I ever rewatched it. And yeah, it was great. It was super fun. And so, like a week ago, I had the third Gilmore Girl pop up in my Libby as a hold. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I am going to listen to this now. Cool. And it was great. It was so fun to listen to because Kelly Bishop has had a very interesting career, interesting life. And like, she, like I mentioned in the info bit, she was a dancer for a long time. And she kind of wanted to break through to become an actress and like get some kind of acting part within like, you know, her stage career, and she eventually did, and it like changed everything for her. And what I thought was really interesting about this book too, she talks a lot about how she was lucky a lot, like things kind of kept coming at her at the right time, or like something wouldn't work out but it would end up being for the best and stuff like that. So I feel like it was nice to see her kind of acknowledge that like she worked really hard but she was also very lucky, and I think that's just like cool. A thing in the business, like you kind of have to be lucky.
Definitely.
But she also talks about like her relationships that she had. Like she had a terrible marriage. She talks about that quite a lot, but then she also talks about how it brought her to where she is now, and like she got remarried, and you know that was a lot of a better situation. But yeah, it was really cool because I liked hearing about her like acting on the stage, but also her like being a dancer and everything. She also mentioned at one point that she danced with Morgan Freeman, and I didn't know that Morgan Freeman was a dancer before he was an actor. So that was like a fun little tidbit to imagine. I was like, what? But yeah, it was cool.
Her being a dancer makes so much sense because she has such good posture.
I know. Knowing she's a dancer, like when you see her on
person.
screen, it makes sense now. It's like she does look
Yeah,
like a dancer.
it really
you know,
does.
the way she moves and the way she
totally
holds
does.
herself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was really cool too, like, because there was a decent amount of Gilmore Girls kind of like anecdotes and background info, but that wasn't the main point of the book, which I really liked. Like,
Cool.
the title of the book just kind of became that, even though that's not all that it's about. So like if you do love Gilmore Girls, you will get some good juicy info about Gilmore Girls, but it's not the only thing the book is about. A lot of it is the other aspects of her career, and also like how she got her role in Dirty Dancing. She was not supposed to be like a huge character in that book or in that movie, but she ended up playing the main character's mom just by accident, because the person who was supposed to play the mom like got sick the week before filming, and so she was like, okay, sure, I'll do it. So like that's just examples of her like being in the right place at the right time, and it was just very cool. But yeah, it was really cool to like get to see her story, because I didn't really know anything about her and like where she came from and how she got started, and I just love her personality. And I listened to the audiobook, so of course she read it, and it's just great hearing her voice, and I just love her. I think she's so awesome and was really great in Gilmore Girls. Like through this rewatch, I came to appreciate her character a lot more, which was fun too.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so I really enjoyed that, and I highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in it. I feel like Gilmore Girls.
I have a question about Gilmore Girls.
Okay, please.
Do you feel that it ends well?
No.
Okay.
No, and actually she talks about that in the book too, because season 7 of Gilmore Girls was written by different people. It was not really the way that anybody wanted it to go, and then it got canceled.
Right.
And then
they did the new Netflix show, and no one likes how that
A Year in the Life
either.
is terrible.
But that was written by the original writer,
I don't
right?
understand. I don't understand that. I rewatched that too, and I was like, man, this really is bad. This really is bad. But I do like there's a theory. I don't want to say it because I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but there is a theory about
you might have told
the way that Year in the Life ends kind of like implies some things about the entirety of Gilmore Girls. You can hit me up on my DMs if you want to chat about that further. But yeah, I don't like the way Gilmore Girls ended, but I think it's okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I find it really hard to rewatch a show that I don't like the ending of it, because I'm like, what am I building to? I feel a lot of dread.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, oh god, okay. Well, that's not gonna work out. Now they're gonna break up. And I'm like, I feel very anxious the whole time.
That's fair.
That's funny. All right, what was that other thing that you read?
Yes. So the other thing I read was kind of just an impulse that I picked this up, and that was The Decagon House Murders by Yukito Ayatsuji. Now, Yuki Uchida, who writes under his pen name Yukito Ayatsuji, is a Japanese writer of mystery and horror. The Decagon House Murders was ranked number 8 on the list of top 100 Japanese mystery novels of all time, and is the first in his Bizarre House/Mansion Murders series, which comprises of 9 books, 4 of which have been translated to English. The Decagon House Murders was originally published in 1987. Yeah, this is one that I hauled fairly recently. I picked it up when I was in BC, and I don't know, I was just, like I said, I've been having this like kind of not knowing what to read, like listening to audiobooks, putting them down, and honestly, I've just like spent a lot of time staring at my shelves like, God, what do I feel like reading? So there's been something, like you said, something in the air, but I decided to pick this up because I just felt like it, and I'm really glad that I did. Because I had a lot of fun reading this. It took me like a week to read. It's not very long, but I was just not in a reading place, and so it just took me a while, but I'm kind of glad that I did that. So basically what this book is about, I mean, it's actually inspired by And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, which is very like, it's very forthright about that in the text. Like, And Then There Were None is even mentioned like right at the beginning of the book. They're just kind of like, oh yeah. And so it's like a nice nod to that book while still being its own thing. But I thought that was cool just as a first thing. But it's about this group of college students who are in a mystery club at school, which is basically like they get together and they talk about mystery novels, and some of them like to write mystery stories as well. And so they are like obsessed with murder mysteries and mystery as a genre, and there's 7 of them, and they all decide to go to this island where the previous year a horrible murder happened. There was like 4 people there in this big house who all mysteriously were murdered, and nobody, like, the crime hasn't been solved yet. And so now one of the students, his uncle, like bought the island. And so he's like, oh, well, we can go check it out. Like, we can just go hang out there for a week. And they're all like, sure, sounds great. And as you would imagine, they get there and things are fine for a little while.
Murdered!
But then they start getting picked off one by one. But what's really cool about this book too is that there's kind of two different things going on. So there's the people on the island, but then there's also a perspective of people who are on the mainland. And so one of the characters on the mainland is someone else from the Mystery Club who didn't go on this trip. And he gets this note, this really like spooky note that's kind of like threatening. And he's like, I don't think I like this. And so he reaches out to another friend who used to be in the club and is like, did you get one of these? And he's like, yeah, I got one too. And so it kind of opens up this whole can of worms of like, what is going on here? Like, why are people being murdered? Why were these original people murdered? And all this stuff. So it's kind of like this big web. And it was so fascinating. And after I finished reading the book, like I kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And now I'm like, do I need to read more murder mysteries? Like suddenly I feel like it's opened up something for me where I'm like, I really enjoy it, but it has to be really like intricate. And what I liked about this book too is I had a theory, like from the very like first chapter, I said, I bet that guy's the murderer. No, evidence, no reasoning for it. I just wanted to choose just to see if I could be right. Yeah. And I was right. But I had no clue throughout the whole book. I was funny. Like, could it be him? Could it be her? I have no idea. Like, it could be anyone at this point. And when it was finally revealed, I actually was just like shocked because it was so complicated and it was so like well plotted, and it took like 30 pages at the end of the book for it to all become like explained. And some people might not like that, but I actually really like that moment of like, okay, I don't understand, and now I just want to like just tell me for however many pages it takes, just explain everything. And
so this is part of a series?
Kind of, yeah. So I actually don't know exactly how connected they all are. It's called the like Bizarre House series, and so each book focuses on a different bizarre house. So like the next book in the series is called The Mill House Murders. So I don't know what's special about the Mill House Murders, but then there's also one called the Labyrinth House Murders, and there's like a whole bunch of them. But yeah, what's interesting about this one is that the house is shaped like a decagon. So it's 10 equal sides, and so it's like this really weird house, and so that like lends into the mystery as well, because it's like, okay, this house is strange, and like there's so much about this house we don't know, there's so much about this island we don't know. And I just found it really fascinating. Like, as you guys might know, and Ariel, I love the movie Parasite, and that's another movie that involves like a weird house or like a big beautiful house that has some secrets. And so that's like a trope that I really like, and I have been hunting for it and haven't found something like that ever, I don't think. And so this is kind of the first thing that I'm like, oh, maybe that's gonna scratch that itch for me. So yeah, I
are you gonna read more of them?
Yeah, I definitely am. I know that my library has the second book. Nice. So I can get that, but I want to own them all now because they're being reissued by Pushkin Vertigo, and they're all these like really cool, beautiful covers. And so I'm ready for it. I want to own them all, and they're all still coming out. Like, I think the third book is not out yet even. So in English. So yeah, so I'm now gonna be collecting them. I'm definitely gonna be reading them because I am all of a sudden obsessed with murder mysteries. So
hey, that's really fun. Yeah, maybe that'll be your subgenre of the year.
I know. So I'm hoping. I mean, I do have a little teaser to the next time we do a book haul. I have ordered a couple of books that are in this genre. So. I love how my fantasy era just like came and went so fast. I'm not saying I'm not going to read fantasy, but it's just funny how I've been going on lots of little waves.
Go with it.
Yeah, I'm just riding the wave, whatever the wave is.
Riding the wave. All right, well, let's talk about our currently reading. Like I said, I've been having a real weird time with my reading, so I have two things I want to talk about today. The first one is The Dog of the South by Charles Portis. This is a book I've been meaning to read for a really long time, and I actually started reading this on my e-reader because I was away from home, and I had my little e-reader on me, and I was like, I'm going to give this thing a shot. And I started reading it, and one cool thing about the e-reader is that, like, when you're reading on an e-reader, it depends what e-reader you have, what settings you have, whatever. But the way that I had it set up, I couldn't see my progress. I couldn't see the percentage. And so I was just reading very freely. There was no sense of progress whatsoever. Cool. And I stopped my little reading moment, and I was like, I wonder how far I got. And I looked, and I had made it to I hadn't been reading for that long, but I'd made it to like page 60. And I was like, wow. I was like, I had no idea I had read so much. That's
Yeah.
really nice. It was good to feel detached from the numbers.
That's cool. I like that.
Of course, I will say, haven't read any more of it. And that was like 5 days ago, but I feel like I'm reading it. So I've mentioned it. The second thing is, so last night, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh boy, we're recording the podcast tomorrow. And I'm looking at my weird pile of books next to my bed, and I'm like, I'm not through any of these enough that I can finish them.
Oh, damn.
I was like, and I really want to try and finish a book. I was like, to review. And I was like, okay, maybe I could, I know, graphic novel. That's the way. I'll just push and race through a graphic novel. I come down here, I'm looking at my graphic novels, and I'm like, that one looks cool. I've been meaning to read that for a really long time.
Yeah.
Take it up to my bedroom, start reading it. And I thought my plan, my goal was to read it really quickly so I could review it today.
Okay.
But it's so good. It's so fantastic that I was like, I am not going to rush through this. I am not going to read this half asleep. I want to actually read this. And so the book is Fun Home by Alison Bechdel. This is a real classic of the graphic novel genre. Definitely one of the most prestigious, most renowned graphic novels. And yeah, it's won all sorts of awards. All sorts of people have quoted it as like one of the greatest graphic novels of all time, which I think is really interesting. And Alison Bechdel is kind of, I think, most famously known for the Bechdel test. That you've probably heard of that when I think it's specifically for movies, but you can use it for any media. And it's just the idea of, does this movie pass the Bechdel test? The Bechdel test being, do two female characters ever have a conversation in which the topic they discuss isn't a man in the movie?
Yeah.
And it's surprising how most films do not pass that Bechdel test. And it's just an experiment to look at, like, what is the representation? What are the women characters doing in this film? Are they actually fully fledged characters on their own, or are they just there to talk about the men and the men in the movie?
Right.
Stuff like that. So it's an interesting test. I think it has its limitations, but it has its uses as well. And so it's cool that she's like, Alison Bechdel is known for this interesting little media moment, but this critical thinking test. But then also she's like a renowned graphic novelist. So anyways, I got to page like 70 or something. This is a stressful book.
Yeah, that's not. It's not like a fun fly through it kind of graphic novel.
No. Have you read this one?
Yeah, but it's been a long time, so I don't really remember. But I remember really liking it.
Yeah, so basically for people that don't know, it's a memoir. It's a graphic novel memoir about Alison Bechdel's experiences growing up in a house with her dad. She has her mom and her dad and her two brothers, but it's about her relationship with her father, who was abusive and was a deeply unpleasant fellow. I'm not far enough to know. I have a feeling he committed some crimes, but I can't tell. She's being a little evasive about it right now. Okay. It's very stressful.
And she's also written another book that's kind of focuses on her mother too, for anyone who might be interested in that. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. Is that bad too? Oh jeez.
Maybe a little. I don't think it's as bad.
No.
I don't remember though.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying it. I'm excited to keep reading it.
That's awesome. That's a mashed potato graphic novel right there.
It is a mashed potato. I there's a sticker on the back of it that says Strange Adventures. And so I have a feeling I bought this the year I moved to Nova Scotia.
Oh wow.
So it's been 4 years. Damn. I've owned it for a long time. But also I've just wanted to read it for longer than that.
Yeah.
I love graphic novels. I've read a lot of graphic novels in my day. I do feel pretty like I'm in that world. And I just often have to remind myself that graphic novels are there for me. Like when I'm having a reading episode where I can't read, like for some reason I just need to turn to graphic novels. They always shift the tide for me over again.
And you do have a lot of them. And you can always reread one too. Like there's no reason to always read a new one.
Yes.
Or you can read On a Sunbeam by Tilly Walden.
Pardon? What was that?
It's okay, she can't hear me.
All right, what are you currently reading then?
Well, I'm also currently reading 2 books. Similarly to you last night, I was like, I need to start something else because like I can't just be reading this. And so like the reason for that is because the main book, well, not the main book, but the first book I was reading is Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn.
Fascinating choice. A murder mystery, you say?
That's true. Yeah. So reading the Decagon House Murders, like I said, got me in the mood for like mystery thriller type of vibes, and so I watched a couple of thriller movies, and I was like, yeah, let's keep riding this wave. And so I have been wanting to reread Gone Girl for quite a long time. I have read it twice. I think I read it in 2015 and then also in 2016 because I liked it so much I like wanted to read it again the next year. But I haven't read it since then, and it's one of my all-time favorite books. So I was like, I need to read this again. Not to like reaffirm that it's one of my favorites, but because I know I'm gonna love it. Like I love this book deeply. I think it's so well executed and well written. And even just I'm only like 40 pages in right now, and it's like so much more well written than like any other thriller I've ever read. Not that I've read a lot, but it isn't just like one of those mass produced kind of books. Like this was kind of the book that started a lot of the wave of domestic thrillers and, you know, wives and husbands not trusting each other and that whole thing. And so I feel like this one, like she just wrote it really well. It isn't just like an easy popcorn read. It is very, very well written. And so I'm really loving it so far. Like I said, I'm only 40 pages in, but I was like, I feel like I need more of a juicy update. And so last night I was like, I'm going to start another book just so I have more things to talk about. And I randomly decided to pick up one that is like one of my more, it's not a mashed potato book yet, but it would have become one if I didn't read it soon. And that book is Crossing the Line by Kareem Rosser. So this is one that I think I got it last year. Ever since I heard about it, I've been trying to find it, and it's pretty hard to find. It's like, I think it's out of print now, so I'm sorry if anybody is interested in this book. It might be hard for you to find, but this is super good so far. I just started it last night. Similarly to Gone Girl, I'm about 40 pages in, but I am already obsessed. So
sick.
Yeah, this is a memoir about so Kareem Rosser has multiple siblings. He has a couple of older brothers, a couple of younger brothers, and a sister. And basically this book is about his older brothers like come across some horses in a stable one day and are like, whoa, what's going on here? And there's like a bunch of kids in the stable with the horses, like grooming the horses and everything. And so they kind of are like get wrapped up in this world where there's this woman who has this stable where kids from wherever, like doesn't matter their background, they can come and just like take care of horses and then ride the horses. And so that's how this all gets started. And basically that's the start to their journey to become polo players. And so they kind of came from a low income neighborhood. There were 6 siblings. Their mom was 14 when she had the first kid. Like it's a very crazy kind of home situation. And so nobody expects them to like become polo players. Polo is like this rich white sport for the most part. Exactly. And so it's just like a really cool story so far. Like I'm excited to see them succeed, and I'm excited to see like the story of how they get from point A to point B, because it's like a sports book, which I love. It's a memoir that's like told from first person perspective. Like he's telling you everything. He's not leaving anything out. It's really vulnerable, and I'm just loving it. Like I've only read 40 pages and I already know I'm probably going to give this 5 stars. Like it's going to take a lot for this to not become a favorite. So
that's really cool.
I'm really enjoying it so far. And so reading 2 very different books, but I feel like it's keeping balance, and I'm loving that.
Well, that's really cool. Okay, well, I didn't have a big reading update, but I do have book news.
Oh, yes.
All right. It's been a big week for the book world. I have 2 pieces of massive book news. World shattering, really. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to hype it up.
Okay.
The first piece of news, I'm wondering if you've seen this one or not, Raeleen. I didn't text you about it because I was like, if she hasn't heard about it, but I'm pretty sure you have.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The Lucy Maud Montgomery situation?
I've heard only very little, but you did tell me about it a little bit.
Did I tell you about it?
Yeah. You might have blacked out. You were so excited.
I was so excited I did start freaking out. I was like, I'm not going to tell Raeleen about this. I'll save it for the podcast. But Ariel in the moment was like, I need to immediately tell Raeleen about this.
It's okay. I don't know. So I haven't looked into it further, so I don't know the full story.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, so the celeb actress Megan Follows was the Well, I was going to say she was the first person. She was absolutely not the first person to depict Anne of Green Gables, but she probably is the most famous person to depict Anne of Green Gables. In the 80s, she was in the giant version of Anne of Green Gables, the TV version. And it's absolutely beloved by people across the world. People love that show, and people love Megan Follows for being in that show. They have just announced, I say they, who is they? I don't, Hollywood. It has just been announced that Megan Follows is going to star in a new show. And she's going to play Lucy Maud Montgomery.
Oh my God. I didn't realize there was a connection.
Yeah.
Anne. Oh.
It's a scary situation on our hands here. I texted Connor and I said, to Connor, my Dune is here. And he said, what? And I just sent him the link to this article, which I will link in the description. And he said, oh my God.
Yeah, like it could go so well or it could go so wrong, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Dune is Connor's favorite book and series. He's reread that series loads of times and everything. And when they announced that Denis Villeneuve was going to be making Dune, and it's going to star Timothée Chalamet and all the other incredible people that are in that movie, like Connor... It really did remind me of like my dad when in the early 2000s they announced they were doing Lord of the Rings and it was going to star Ian McKellen and all of these incredible actors and everything. Sean Bean. Like it was like my dad was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I'm getting the perfect adaptation of my favorite show.
Right.
Of my favorite books. And then that happened with Dune. And I was like, everyone gets that. And I remember talking to Connor, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be as excited about an adaptation of anything as I was about Harry Potter. Because Harry Potter to me was my like huge series as a teenager, and seeing that, going to the midnight premieres and all of that was such a big deal. Yeah. And I was like, as an adult, is that ever going to happen? And then I see this news. And all I can say is I feel a lot of fear in my heart. I don't feel excited. I just feel scared.
Yeah. That's fair.
I was saying to CJ, because we were talking about adaptations in general, and I was saying to CJ, I was like, the truth is it doesn't matter. Like, if it turns out great, that's so awesome. Mm-hmm. If I hate it, that's okay too. Like, it doesn't change the fact that Lucy Maud Montgomery actually existed and was a person, and I can still read her books and I can still read her biographies and everything. But it is scary because when you care about something, you want it to be depicted in a way that you are really excited about. And this is what I was talking. I was like, I don't think people realize the Anne with an E show that I'm obsessed with. Yeah. Like, that was written by the same woman that wrote Breaking Bad.
Oh, like, really?
I don't think people realize that often enough. Like, we had one of the greatest writers of TV history write an Anne of Green Gables adaptation. There's a reason it's unbelievably good. Yeah. And so I'm like, I already have that. I will have that forever. No one can mess with that, even though it got canceled, which is a bummer. I can always return to that series and everything. But yeah, I love Lucy Maud Montgomery in this special, very magical way, and so I'm nervous, but I'm excited too. It will be a lot of exposure for Anne of Green Gables, for the author. In the article, it specifically mentions that it's based on The Gift of Wings by Mary Henley Rubio, this big biography, so that's good news. And the Megan Follows talks about how when she played Anne in the 80s, she read the journals a lot and became very intimately attached to the journals. You guys have heard me talk about the journals here on the podcast before, and so I'm like, it's super cool that they're referencing all of this stuff, right? So it's probably going to be great. I should just go into it thinking it's going to be great, but I am a little nervous.
Do we know when it's supposed to happen?
Great question. I don't think that we do.
I think it's
it's just been announced. I don't think we have news on an. I don't even think that there's no cast yet.
Okay.
We only know that Megan Follows is going to play Lucy Maud Montgomery when she's older, but they're gonna have someone play her when she's younger and when she's in her 20s. So basically, we're in for a year of me updating you all about this.
Awesome.
Our second bit of news is not as fun at all.
Yeah.
it is this Amazon catastrophe. Have you been following along with this?
I haven't been following it, but I've heard of what it is. And that's not cool.
It is absolutely not cool. Okay. Nobody listening to this podcast likes Amazon, right? So, like, I know, we've already know this, but I do think that it is worth discussing when we get interesting new updates so that we can all really put Amazon behind us. I used to use Audible. I even did a sponsorship with Audible Canada. It was like over a decade ago. Yeah. But like when they launched in Canada, I was like, this is so exciting. I love Audible. Mm-hmm. And then I learned more about it and I was like, oh, no, I'm going to use an independent. So I only get my audiobooks through the library and Libro FM, right? So like we can always all be growing and adjusting and changing as we get new information. As Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. And there's been this new little update. And it's funny because I think Amazon did not think it would be picked up with such fervor by the reading community. I think they were like, it's just a tiny little update, but it's blown up quite a bit, and I think for good reason. So basically, it's a simple little change, but Amazon, who obviously owns and runs the Kindle and the entire Kindle ecosystem, they have announced that you can no longer download your ebooks to your computer. So the exact wording is, starting February 26th, 2025, the download and transfer via USB option will no longer be available. You can still send Kindle books to your Wi-Fi enabled devices, and so you still, like, when we say you can't download them anymore, it doesn't mean you can't download them to the device. Like, you can still use your device without Wi-Fi and stuff. You don't have to be connected. You can still download them to your device, but basically you can't download them to your computer. The reason that this is weird is for a few different things. There's like ramifications. They're obviously trying to stop people from pirating. They're trying to stop people from exporting their books and using them on devices that are not Kindles. They're just trying to lock you even more into this ecosystem. But the reason that this is weird is because it really messes with the idea of ownership. You buy a book, you spend money on a digital file, you think you own that digital file, and therefore you think you can do whatever you want with it. And now they're saying, no, you can't. Like, you can't download this. You can't use it on a different device. You can't look at this on your computer. And so that's pretty disturbing. There's some really other weird ramifications that have gone on over the last few years. Like, I've heard a couple of reports of people who say that the covers of their books have changed. And so, like, you'll buy a ebook that has a cover on it, and then Prime will make a show of that book, and now your cover is the TV version, and they say you can watch this on Prime. And so it's like making your covers into little commercials for Prime products. And again, this is just an accessibility nightmare because it's locking you into an ecosystem. So basically, say your Kindle dies. If you don't buy another Kindle, you can never read those books again. So you have to be locked into this Kindle system because there's no way to transfer your books onto another device anymore. So I'm going to link to two things. One, to an article that's well written and interesting about this, but also to our friend Lena's video. She just made a video all about this, and she explains some of the ramifications really well. And it's a whole video, so a lot more room to talk about it than we have here. But I just think it's interesting, and I think it's a great reminder to not use Amazon. Don't use Kindle. Don't use Audible. Don't buy your books on Amazon. It is the worst thing it's the worst way you can get books. Like, of all the ways you can get a book, that's the worst one. And there's so many great options. That's the cool thing right now. There was a time, and I think this is genuine. There was a time when getting audiobooks was difficult. And like Audible was exciting because it made it so much more accessible. Well, we're so lucky now. There are a lot of ways to get audiobooks now. And there was a long time when really it felt like Kindle was the only e-reader on the market. There are other options now. And especially with things like bookshop.org, there are other ways to get books online. So a little PSA on that one, Raeleen.
We can break free. We can break free, everyone.
We can break free. We don't need them no more. And there we have it. I think that's everything, Raeleen. What do you think?
I think so. It was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a big, juicy update. All right, final thing we're going to do today is a little visit to the mail room. Raeleen, start us off. What comments did you find today?
Okay, so we have a couple of good ones that are on the getting ebooks from the library discussion that we had in our Reading Confessions episode. So I thought this was juicy. So Shay says, one note on the ebook discussion. I asked my library if it's better for their funding to check out physical or digital books. And at least at my library, they said they both contribute equally to their usage statistics, which has a direct impact on future funding. So my take is that whether you read it or not, checking out an ebook adds a usage stat, which still helps your library. And then Kristen responded to it. And she said, yes, as a librarian, usage in general helps with our stats. It's true about the limited number of checkouts, but that burden should be placed on the big publishing houses who set ridiculous costs and contracts, not on our patrons. Please use Libby, and if you have Hoopla through your library, they have a different type of contract, so we pay for the service and not the items. So I thought that was cool. I don't know what Hoopla is. That might be an American thing, but
yeah, I feel like I've heard of this. There was a lot of great discussion about that topic.
Yeah.
And I had some librarians who were like, that's not how it works at my library. And a lot of people who were like, yes, this is how it works at my library.
Yeah,
and so I do want to reiterate what I said in the last episode, which is, go talk to your librarian.
Yeah.
Because someone was a little upset with me because they're like, this isn't how it works. And I was like, you live in Arkansas. I'm like, of course it works differently there. So definitely, we're talking about hundreds, actually probably thousands of libraries here.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have a slightly different system, especially when we talk internationally. So go talk to your librarians. How cool is that? They'll tell you exactly how it works.
Yeah, very good. Okay, this next comment is from Maxwell, who says, wow, I just wanted to say the thoughtfulness, sincerity, and kindness you both bring to these responses is so heartwarming. Just really lights up the soul. I thought that was so nice. A lot of people were just like happy with how empathetic we were, and like we're, listening to each other and listening to people and giving thoughtful advice. And I'm glad to hear that, because I did take a lot of time to think about those answers.
Yes. Yeah, we do a lot of prepping for those.
Yes. Okay. Oh, this one is funny, from Madison, who says, the way I was literally making a list, as Raeleen said, if you're making a list in your head right now, stop. I feel like that's a problem that we all have. There's always...
That's very interesting.
There's always something else to think about, something that you're on to the next, Okay, the last one here I will mention is from Taylor, who says, I so relate to the audiobook productivity thing. To shift away from my chronic audiobook listening, I started listening to everything on Rolling Stone's top 100 albums of all time, a TBL to be listened, if you will, while doing chores or at work, and it's been really fun. So I thought that was a cool idea. Like, find a listening project that's like different from listening to audiobooks, or it could be podcasts, it could be whatever you want it to be. But I agree with that fully. I think that's fun, because I love listening to music, and I've recently been discovering like new music, and I'm like, this is fun. Why don't I do this more often? So I'm with Taylor on that one.
That's a really great idea. Okay, I pulled a couple comments from last week as well. This first one is from Chlorala, and they said, has Raeleen mentioned who her go-to character is for Mario Party Jamboree? This is important information to me.
Thank you for asking. So yeah, I've had a lot of different characters throughout my time on different Mario Party games, but for Jamboree, my go-to character is Boo. I always play as Boo. Although I've had a couple of times where I tried playing different characters. I played as Spike once, didn't go well. Okay. But the one time I played as Luigi, I maxed out the number of coins you could get. I got like 17 stars. I absolutely obliterated my brother and the computer players. So I think Luigi might be my secret weapon, but I do prefer playing as Boo. So
okay, very cool. Yeah. And are you still maining as Rose Gold Peach on Mario Party or on Mario Kart?
Yes. Sometimes I'm Cat Peach, but Pink Gold Peach has been my go-to for a number of years now, and I'm not straying too far from that. Thank you for asking. That's really important to me.
I know, I agree. Okay, the Yellow Crush said, idea for Katie. So this was a person who was trying to like help customers find books in her bookshop. Leverage your patrons. Bookstores are great community spaces, and part of the allure of building your collection is the sleuthing to do so. Maybe build a book detective bulletin boards with the titles people are looking for. If a patron brings one in, they take down the clue from the board, and it's good for some kind of a discount, like $1 off or 10% off, or a free beverage if you guys serve coffee, as a sort of good book Samaritan reward. And so if you make it fun, it lets your patrons know you're always on the hunt for their requests. That's such a great
best idea I think that could have come out of this. Wow, that's amazing.
I know. I was like, Yellow Crush freaking crushed it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so creative. I would have never thought of something like that, but that is the type of idea we need.
That's why I was like, we got to source the listeners on this one. I think that's such a cute idea that when someone's looking for a book, maybe even you just have a really cute like stationery thing where they get to write that book down, pin it on a board, and then when people are coming to sell you books, they can see like, oh, or if they like see it on their way out of the bookshop one day and they're like, oh, someone's looking for like Anne of Green Gables. I have a copy I don't want. I'll bring it in and I get $1 off. Like that. Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea.
This might even be more effort, but if you like printed out copies of the covers or something and then like,
oh, that's
then you can just like put the person's name on the back of it or something so you can keep track of who's looking for what.
That's a really cute idea.
That could be really cool. If you do something like this, please send us a photo.
Absolutely. If anyone does something like this, we got to see, because that's a really, really great idea. And the final comment I pulled here was from @GinkgoGhost. That reminds me, I almost bought a ginkgo tree once, and I really wish that I had. But, you know, like one of the, I forget if it's the male tree or the female tree, really smells bad. Oh. And so you have to make sure to get the one that isn't that one. And so I knew this, and so I asked the person at the tree store, I was like, hi, do you know what gender this tree is? And they were like, no, actually. I was like, I don't want to risk it because they're kind of expensive. That's a whole different adventure anyways. Ginkgo Ghost says, I work at the library and I wanted to say first, you can use tags on Libby to create a wish list for items that are available. And so that was something a lot of people commented, that they create tags, that they use tags to tag stuff on there. I do that
too. It's awesome.
Yeah. And so I definitely haven't tried messing around with tags yet. And so definitely, if people are interested in that, that is a function you can use. Yeah. So thank you to everyone who leaves us comments all over the place. We're always grateful to hear from you guys and to, feel a little back and forth on the whole reading situation. Thank you so much to everyone for listening to this episode. We are now going to go and record our Patreon only podcast, Media Tub, where we talk about the movies, shows, music, video games, podcasts, YouTube videos, whatever, and maybe something else. All the media that we've been consuming over the last month. It's our big wrap up, and I'm going to be talking about some of the Oscar movies and some other stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely join our Patreon if you want to hear about that. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.